Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Oh!
How did the technological changes of the Industrial Revolution promote increasing global integration and also emphasize differences between people and how it is impacting us today? The Industrial Revolution occurred from 1760 to 1851. It was a time of rapid growth and change throughout America and Europe. Innovations in machinery, methods, and techniques of producing goods opened up an entirely new world. More goods were able to be produced, and in a shorter amount of time. This is owed to advancements in architecture, agriculture, transportation, and communication. It provided a great amount of jobs for people, improving the quality life, but it also had its drawback.
Technology. In 1764, James Hargreaves invented the spinning jenny, a device which allowed one person to spin many threads at once, further increasing the amount of finished cotton that a worker could produce. By turning a single wheel, one can now spin 8 threads at once, a number that was later increased to 80. Also, in 1764, Richard Arkwright invented the water frame to produce yarn faster. The spinning frame, its earlier name, was too large to be operated by hand. After experimenting with other sources of power, he decided to employ the power of a water wheel, and his machine became known as the water frame. Rollers produced yarn of the correct thickness, while a set of spindles twisted fibers together. The machine was able to produce a thread far stronger than any other available at the time. In 1779, Samuel Crompton combined both the spinning jenny and the water frame to create a machine known as Crompton's mule, which produced large amounts of fine, strong yarn. Britain took advantage of the Americas' available new cotton, using it to help absorb the demand. By 1830, the importation of raw cotton had increased to 8 times its past rate, and half of Britain's exports were refined cotton. At this point, the demand was high enough to provide inspiration for what is probably the most well-known invention of the Revolution, the steam engine. In 1769, James Watt patented the steam engine and in fact created a new source of power. Early model steam engines were introduced to drain water and raise coal from the mines, but the crucial development was the use of steam for power. The first steam engine was actually produced by Thomas Newcomen, but Watt later improved and patented it. The original idea was to put a vertical piston and cylinder at the end of the pump handle, and then put steam in the cylinder and condense it with a spray of cold water. The vacuum created atmospheric pressure to put the piston down, but Watt made it a reciprocating engine, creating the first true steam engine. In 1807, Robert Fulton used steam power to create the first steamboat, an invention that would change the way and the speed in which materials could be moved between the colonies of Britain. Finally, in 1814, Stephenson used the steam engine to create a steam-powered train, which would eventually allow increased communication and trade between places before deemed too far. Another important innovation of the Industrial Revolution was the factory system. Factories allow goods to be produced faster and more efficiently. This led to a primitive version of Henry Ford's assembly line, which would revolutionize production forever.
The telegraph, invented by Americans and the British, simultaneously revolutionized the way we communicate forever. The creation of new industries led to a commercial business class replacing the previous aristocracy and the emergence of 5 new occupational classes. Also, the classes were based off how hard one worked, so it was much easier to move within society. However, working conditions were still very bad, including low wages and child labor.
Money for my family.
It shall be lawful for the said commissioners by order under their hands and seal to declare so many parishes as they may think fit to be united for the administration of the laws for the relief of the poor, and such parishes shall thereupon be deemed a union for such purpose, and thereupon the workhouse or workhouses of such parishes shall be for their common use. The object of the Poor Law Amendment from the government's perspective was to ensure that the majority of the population remained productive and economically beneficial. However, as can be seen from the excerpt from the amendment, it benefited the rich more than the poor people it was intended for. It was passed in 1834 with little debate and introduced sweeping changes to the previous Poor Law. Serious environmental changes took place. Soot, a byproduct of burnt coal, which was used for basically everything, covered English cities, turning many buildings black over time and contributing to air pollution, both inside ventilated factories and outside. Lack of sewage treatment plants resulted in raw human waste running into streams and rivers. As European countries grew richer from expanding industries and an increasing amount of exports, people grew prouder of their respective countries. Economic changes resulted in a wider distribution of wealth and increased international trade. Germany, for example, despite having vast resources of coal and iron, did not begin its industrial expansion until after national unity was achieved in 1870. Once begun, Germany's industrial production grew so rapidly that by the turn of the century, that nation was outproducing Britain in steel and had become the world leader in the chemical industries.
Surprisingly, during the Industrial Revolution, the arts flourished. From 1750 to 1820, a movement called Neoclassicism took root. Artists drew from Greek and Roman influences. From 1800 to 1850, a famous movement called Romanticism flourished, including pianists such as Chopin, Liszt, Schumann, and Beethoven, which we are currently listening to. The quick industrialization across Europe during the 19th century led to a great increase in goods produced as well as the demand for raw materials. This demand, coupled with increased nationalist pride, led nations to seek colonies abroad in which to produce and trade goods. In short, industrialization in Europe had far-reaching consequences for the rest of the world. While it made Britain the ultimate power for over a century, it can be argued that its rule over the world caused conflict and internal strife which continues to this day. In fact, some might argue that an industrial revolution is still happening today.
Hey guys, did you hear the iPhone 20 is coming out? Are you serious? That's what I heard. I heard it's gonna be really, really long. And thin.
That's recorded.
Okay, do you wanna see?